the people that I love in this community, like, I want them to meet you because you really have meant so much to me in my career and my path as a human. And we are live, so that was just recorded, Shad, and I mean it with all my heart. I really do.
I appreciate it, and the
Guys,
feeling
Shad,
is mutual.
oh man, such a privilege to know you. Shad Berry is with us, folks. Y'all just heard me gushing my heart here, our little bromance going on. Shad has, this is gonna be a weird introduction, Shad. Shad is one of the most talented people connectors and passion connectors I've ever met. We're talking about passion, purpose, and plan today. Shad is an extremely good salesperson, an extremely good lead generator, and an extremely strong entrepreneur. I've seen him start and launch multiple brands just so successfully. And the superpower Shad has is actually meeting people's hearts. And Shad shows up with his heart. And it connects something in a magical way that's hard to replicate. And it's hard to replicate for most of us because we don't see it right in front of us. We don't realize, oh, actually, this is kind of how I got to know my partner in life or whatever you're connected to in your closest friendships. And we just mess that up when it comes to business. And Shad, like, is going to help us today untangle how do we keep our hearts engaged in this process as we're growing our businesses. So, Shad, dude, welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for your kind words. I am embarrassed to hear them, but I appreciate them
Hmm.
very much. So thank you. I'm deeply encouraged by you. You
Oh
know
man.
that.
Well, let's do this, Shad. So tell us first of all, you just launched a mastermind, right?
Yes.
So many of us in this group are doing the same thing. Like, what did you just launch? Let's start there and then we'll back into this passion, purpose, plan stuff.
Yeah. So I guess it's been about a year ago that we launched a leadership development program and platform called Next Level Leadership.
Mhm.
I co-authored a book with one of my partners called Next Level Leadership by the same title, and it's a platform designed for mid-market leaders of mid-market companies. Really, it's a broad range of privately held businesses and organizations, anywhere from a startup to $500 million with less than 1,000 employees, just to try to give some parameters for it. Although some people don't, in the program don't fit that necessarily. But the passion that I had based on my own experience was to create an integrated development model. The next decade in particular is going to be defined by disruption, and that would have been the case without COVID. So that we're not even talking about the pandemic. We're just talking about technology, generational matters that are in the marketplace today, relational matters, social, economical, let alone political. So
Mhm.
you've got all these forces at play, kind of the change that everybody's feeling, but you can't see. And we do our best to like grasp at what it is. So the purpose of the leadership development program is to integrate the tools and techniques or principles, proven principles of business leadership and development with emotional intelligence and relational integrity, the best practices of leading an emotionally intelligent and relationally integrous way. I often say emotional intelligence without relational integrity is really manipulation. And so learning to integrate my whole being into the entity that I'm leading in a relational and emotionally healthy way is really what will sustain us through times that are going to be just a wild ride. They already have been. So that's the hope. It's a 12-month experience. It's very hands on. So we don't care how big it is. It just is meant to be deep. So very relational and really between one-to-one coaching and classroom content delivery live, that people are hopefully experiencing not only just getting content, but they're also experiencing transformation as they apply this to their teams and the things that they lead. So, and that a lot of that has come from Chris's encouragement in many conversations through discouragement, and his belief in me, which has been invaluable as well. So it's been a fun journey to share with you.
Oh man. Kind words, but dude, I love what you're doing. So let's talk about passion and purpose and plan, not trying harder. And most of us as entrepreneurs, and most of us as people who like to crack the codes on life and like to overachieve and have whatever we have coming into our heads telling us just go, go, go. It's never enough. What I did today isn't good enough. I got to try harder tomorrow.
Hmm.
And we bang our head against this brick wall. If it's prospecting, if it's selling, if it's figuring out what program or service we're going to sell, if it's just helping our next door neighbor, we overthink it and we get stuck.
Hmm.
And often we think our passion really can't play into this stuff because what if my passion doesn't make enough money?
Right. Right.
Right? That's what it comes down to.
Hmm.
You bought passion, purpose, and plan in that order versus
Hmm.
having a plan first or whatever. Talk us through that.
Yeah, and I don't know how to talk about this briefly. By the way, just fair warning. Like, I don't know how to. I don't have like these phrases and things. I wish I could, but every time, like hearing you introduce that, it stirs so much in me. So let me start with this. Like, we all want a pill that makes all this work,
Mhm.
like makes it work the way we want it to work. In essence, we desire the illusion of control, where I can control outcomes. And we tell our teams all the time, like there's no such thing as a pill that makes everything work. There's only a path. And so I've kind of got to determine what path I'm going to commit myself to. And we have created some content around this idea of, do I start with a plan? So let's say this is an easy straw man target, admittedly, but let's just say I want to make X number of dollars. Okay, that's my plan. Well, then now I got to figure out a way to do it. That plan now gives me some sense of purpose. Like, I know that I need to do something that's going to generate this much income. The problem with that is it has a shelf life to it. I mean, I've experienced that. I think everybody probably listening to some degree, whether they've identified it that way or not, they've started with a plan to try to achieve some desired goal or outcome or lifestyle,
Mhm.
and found themselves exhausted, tired, spent, frazzled, relationship struggling, just emotionally, health wise, just not caring for themselves. And what that requires, if you take a plan and try to make it your purpose, that requires motivation.
Mhm.
Motivation is not a bad thing. Motivation is a temporary thing, and it's an external thing. Like, motivation is not typically rooted in intimate relationship. Motivation generally comes from, I saw a quote today from somebody I don't know, and that got me through this next 2 hours. Like, they're good, but motivation is not generally personally connected in a relationally intimate way. Now, passion, on the other hand, is this renewable resource, and passion is one of the most misunderstood words in the English vocabulary. The root word of passion is suffering. So a lot of times we think passion, I'm passionate about fly fishing. I'm passionate about the Grizzlies in Memphis. I'm passionate about, relationships or Shelby Farms. Passion ultimately says it's something that I care so much about that I'm willing to suffer for. Obviously, suffering is relative, right? Like, we're not talking about, being tortured. However, anybody that's done anything that mattered to them, that they cared deeply about, it came with cost and risk. It required work and effort.
Mhm.
And here's what I'd say: anybody that lives with passion is going to face opposition. Like, the world does not bow down and be like, "Oh, you care about this? Well, come on through." Like, now. So we're gonna flesh this out further, but like, all of a sudden, when I'm deeply connected with what I'm most passionate about, then I have an internal renewable resource. It doesn't mean I'm not going to get discouraged. It doesn't mean I'm going to be disheartened. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be like, want to give up or even depressed. Because when I'm connected to my passion is when I'm the most vulnerable, which simply means woundable.
Mhm.
Chris, you and I've talked about this so much. When I start telling somebody, what I really care about, like I know I do this right now, but you want to know what I really care about, and you lean in, and all of a sudden it's like, if I trust you with this, then and you kind of go, "Oh, really?" Or, "That's what you care about?" Like, all of a sudden, that's like piercing, you
Mhm.
know. So I firmly believe, and part of what we do and the work and this people work that I love to do is excavating their hope, their passion. two distinct things, closely related. But what, because our hope over the course of living gets buried under blood, sweat, tears, loss, pain, challenges. And so we kind of start making a deal with life that's like, hey, if I live at an arm's length distance, then I'm going to insulate myself from pain. The only problem is the more you insulate yourself from pain and risk and loss, then the more you also insulate yourself from love, intimacy, connection, hope, the things that actually were made to be fueled by.
Mhm.
I'll pause there because I'll get on a roll. But like, does
Yeah,
that
no,
connect?
that's making so much sense. The hope connection is a huge piece for all of us. We talk a lot
Hmm.
here about dream, drain, and doubt. What's someone's
Hmm.
dreams? And then what are the drains and doubts, the external and the internal things that are keeping us and holding us back? And man, those dreams are that it's that hope. Not just dream of or hope
Right.
of making more money next year, but like why? Why you want to make more money next year? What is it in you that needs that? What what is it that a little more time or freedom or having your own business or whatever would do for your heart?
Yeah.
That deep hope stuff, is it, well, that gets me time to have relationships. It gets me space to just be myself, to breathe. Like when you when we hear that, I think we often, particularly in a business entrepreneurial setting like many of us here are, we often hear that and we're like, whoa, that was deep. All right, let's get back to talking about systems and teams and
Right.
I
Right.
don't know what to do with
It
that.
doesn't feel efficient.
No, it's so messy. But
Hmm.
that is the reason, if I'm hearing you right, Shad, that people are going to make a decision long term, a sustainable decision to act either way they go.
Right. Yeah. So the purpose piece of this then is if I connect with my hope and my passion, which says, man, I'm willing to do scary things because they matter enough to me that I'd put myself out there, make myself vulnerable. And then my desire is to make a contribution. Humanly speaking, every human being, whether you know this or not, your greatest joy comes from contributing or being of maximum service,
Hmm.
right? So, like a tree's greatest joy, I know we're not trees here, but a tree's greatest joy or completion or fulfillment, like fulfillment's a word I think people throw around a lot. A tree is fulfilled when it reaches its maturity and it bears fruit that supports and sustains other life, meaning it's got seeds that get planted that grow the trees. So, like, so for us as human beings, when our contribution reaches maturity, that it bears fruit that supports and sustains other life, right? And like
Hmm.
what you're doing is such a great example of that. Like this is a great example, and it's not the only way, but it's a way. It's very relational, and so now I build a plan. So if that passion needs to make money, like not every one of those need to make money, right? Like
Sure.
some of them are just because you're benevolent and because you're loving and because so you can have multiple things you're passionate about. It doesn't mean all of them have to produce revenue.
Right.
Something's going to have to, something's got to pay bills. So we got to reconcile some things. Like, am I? And this is where you see people. And I think what's unique about this network and this group is we've all kind of cut the cord, so to speak, of the like we're not going to kind of enslave would be a strong word, but we're not going to submit ourselves to this kind of corporate pathway that says I have to work in the same place for 50 years, in order to have freedom later. We're saying,
Right.
no, I think I can create life in a way that helps me be free now. So I think that connects with this audience.
Hmm.
So now I make a plan, and I get help and feedback and seek wisdom and counsel that helps encourage me. So last piece I'll add to this. Um, Living with passion like we're describing
Hmm.
requires a tremendous amount of courage.
Hmm.
Courage is not the absence of fear. This is not unique to me. This has been said by smarter people than I, but like courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to do scary things because what's on the other side of my courage matters more than the fear I have to walk through.
Wow.
Now courage does not
All right.
courage like
Say that again. Can you
yeah,
just say that
I
again?
I will try. Uh, Courage is not the absence of fear. it's the passion on the other side of that fear that matters more to me, that makes me willing to walk through the thing that I'm afraid of in order to get to it or to contribute it.
Mhm.
So there's so many illustrations and movies of where you see this play itself out, where the hero faces something that they're afraid of because what they're passionate about, what they care about. And here's the thing, passion is what says, hey, I'm willing to make a sacrifice, even. Like, I'm
Mm.
even willing to make a sacrifice on behalf of the thing or the people or the place that I care about. Now, here's the thing about courage, though. You cannot gin up courage within yourself. Like,
Mm.
this is where we go wrong in kind of the American mindset of like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and, like, be an independent man or woman. Courage, like water from a well, has to be drawn out by someone else who cares. And so, like, using our relationship as an example, Chris, your source of courage. So the root word of courage, the Latin root is cor, which is heart. So to
Huh.
be discouraged is to be disheartened. To be encouraged means I borrow heart from somebody who has it when I don't. So
Mhm.
so this is what I'm saying. It's all relational. Like, so the whole system of doing courageous, hard things, and entrepreneurship and business leadership is an ecosystem of relationships. It's a community, people who have a unity that they share in common unity. And the unity
Mhm.
is, hey, we're a community of people that want to help other people excavate their passion, instill them with courage so they can pursue what it is that they're made to pursue and contribute to the world that needs what you have. Like, that's what I'm saying. The world needs what you have. And so that's the beauty of communities like this, is they're designed to, how do we encourage people today? And that is a daily renewable thing. Like, you don't get courage like going to the well. You don't get courage once and be like, I already got courage yesterday. Like, no, it's like, I wish I didn't need it all the time, but like, I'm a very needy individual. Like, I need encouragement, like, on the daily, which means I'm very dependent on a community that is willing to share what they have with me when I need it.
Yeah. Man. By the way, Inja just says bravo, and Inja, you're so right. Shad, Inja's somebody in our community. She's building a mastermind for therapists. You guys should talk.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
she's
absolutely.
she's a therapist building a mastermind for therapists to help them just grow as people, not
Yep.
just their practices, but like be able to continually stay
Yeah.
sustainable, right? And
Yeah.
stay after it. Like,
Huge need. Huge
yeah.
need.
So Chad owns a therapy practice, a multi-branch therapy practice, a bunch of therapists also. Chad's got a lot of irons in the fire. Oh my gosh. Chad, you exhaust me every time.
And I exhaust a lot of people, myself included.
you, you do like what 10 people normally do. Um,
Uh,
so yeah, man, that what I'm hearing here is going back daily and regaining our own personal courage is so critical, because our job, for most of us here in this community, we're leading other communities. We're leading 10 people or thousands of people. And they need courage from us. They need that, oh my gosh, you got this. You can keep going. But for us to continue putting out that kind of flow of courage, and we got to have some source of courage on our own. So
mhm.
obviously, Shad, my next question is, how do each of us, and I know we each find our source of hope and energy and purpose and all that in different places, but what are practices that you use to just make sure daily, like, you're you're refilling your own personal courage tank?
Yeah. So I mean, specifically, I have a handful, I mean, a small number of people that I can check in with at any given time, sometimes even daily. And a check in is simply saying, like, hey, this is where I am today. And like, this is what I'm feeling. Uh, without going too far down another rabbit hole, we focus on feelings, legitimate feelings that open the door to legitimate needs,
Mhm.
which open the door to legitimate desire. So part of a check-in for me with somebody's like, man, this is what I'm feeling today. I'm sad, lonely, hurt, afraid, angry, ashamed, guilty. So we kind of break these down into 8 core feelings that have a gift and an impairment. So when I'm checking in with somebody, I'm leading with vulnerability. And these are safe people that have proven themselves trustworthy over time. Chris is a safe person. I can come to you and tell you the raw truth of where I am and what I've done, and know that you're not going to judge me, or you're not going to leave me, like you would stay in it. And we've had those conversations. Um, let me tell you a few of the things Chris has shared with me privately too. By the way, just no, just kidding.
Just between
All
us.
right, so yeah, just between us. So, are other people watching this? So, yeah, so a safe person is somebody I can bring that to. They're people I don't have to pretend or perform for. Now, you don't need 75 of these. You need like 3 to 4.
Mm.
Preferably not it doesn't have to be a spouse. I think, maybe even best in some cases not to be. That's another conversation. But like having people that you can bring yourself to in a vulnerable way is an incredible practice, because instead of me trying to control or judge myself for having these feelings, or feeling the things I feel about myself that I wish were not true, but they just are, that I can bring to somebody who can give me feedback and affirm and validate, and attune with me, is extremely life-giving. It's messy because it's always risky. Like it never feels not risky, even if the people are trustworthy.
Mhm.
So that is a practice. But finding those people, and here's what I've learned: safe people know other safe people. So like as I, when you and I connect and we're like, ooh, you'd love him and you love them, and like safe people find other safe communities where it's okay to not be okay, to not have to, like, for leaders like this group. For most of us, we have a performance based identity that says the only way that I matter and belong is producing something, providing something, contributing something. Where do I go where I can just be in need and just receive?
Mhm.
Like, and if you're having to deliver something in every context that you're in, then that's a barometer for burnout, depletion, resentment, frustration. So pay attention to that. So it takes time to establish that community and trust that community. But what I've learned is that the more I've leaned in and told the truth about and led with vulnerability, that many people move forward and lean in and say me too, as opposed to turning and running away.
Hmm. Oh, that's awesome. And you just said the words, and I don't want to get political or I know people have their thoughts about this, but you just said the words "me too."
Yeah.
Me too, as a movement, I'll put some quotes around that. The way that has built people's courage and people's hope to be able to say, I had trouble here. This was a bad thing, and I'm brave enough to say it. And then having someone else say, me too, all
Yeah,
of a
you're not
sudden
alone.
builds a space for that to be okay and to be worked on and healed. And yeah, anyway, so that's been a critical part, Shad. You know that about me because you're a person that I confide in. And and that's been a really helpful piece. And again, for those of you watching, listening, however you're consuming this, if you're leading a community and you're constantly giving out, for many of us, we're leaders. That's why we love doing this. And so we find ourselves on the weekends, on the weeknights, on the weekdays leading. We're always the one at the parent teacher organization taking charge. We're always the one at your place of worship taking charge. We're always the one in our little
Hmm.
neighborhood party, whatever, taking charge. And you never have a place where you get to just be a member of something, of a small group of friends like Shad's mentioning here, or Shad, I'm running and biking right now with running and biking groups
Right.
that I
Right.
didn't establish purely so I can show up somewhere and do something that I didn't have to lead.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think so many things in this that you just alluded to, whether it's in the Me Too movement or whether it's in the community aspect of it. Pay attention to, some of y'all have that strong urge to take charge. Um, I want you to pay attention to how uncomfortable it may be for you to simply receive and let other people lead. Like, pay attention to that, because that's telling you something. Like, there's something about that that you need to be aware of, and be attuned to, in your leadership. Like, it's okay for you, because here's at the core, I think what happens is we're really uncomfortable being in need.
Mhm.
We're comfortable meeting needs and anticipating needs, but it's really hard for us because that's associated with some level of weakness. It's not okay to not know. It's not okay to not have answers. It's not okay to not have a plan. It's not okay to, like, or to just not have a good day. Like, so it pushes us beyond the limits of our humanity, and embracing that, we kind of use the language of like finding freedom and surrender.
Mhm.
Surrendering to the limits of your humanity is actually where you'll find life, because then you'll be able to get what you need, as opposed to overextending yourself. And you'll find that over time you're more efficient, you're more present. People, that's another word people, I just want, people to use, I want to be more present. It's like, what do you mean by that? Like, being more present is not like I'm a better, I'm going to pretend to be a better listener. Not on my phone. Like, presence is actually like I'm allowing myself to feel what you're saying and show up with my whole self with it, to be scared or to grieve or to, anyway, there's
There's
we
a
could
whole
talk for
bunch
this
to
for a very,
unpack there.
I know, sorry, I just
No, that's
talked
really
talked
good.
about.
No, man, you're like, this is all really practical stuff. So we're like freaking all over the place, and I love that. So being present, I know most of us think being present means sitting this thing down
Right.
and taking the watch off, because that's another version of this thing,
Right. Right.
and like talking to someone. But man, you're right. Being present is actually allowing your heart and your head to get into a situation
Hmm.
fully immersed and just be all there. And it's actually really hard to do now. I think we've trained ourselves to stay on the fringes of so many things. Even watching a movie, it's hard to sit there. If you're in the movie theater, you kind of feel like you should turn your phone off because you don't want the glow to like be shining around you.
Everybody will see you.
But when we're at home, we watch a movie and we're like, you know, half the room laughs watching a movie. I'm like, oh, what happened? What happened? You
Yeah,
know?
what I miss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, I
good.
think that giving ourselves permission to, turn things off. I think if you are more aware of how desperately you need intimate human connection. And intimacy is not I don't know how people hear that. That's not just about sexuality.
Mhm.
Intimacy is about being seen and known, and knowing and seeing.
Mhm.
And once you experience that with another human being, and you experience the life that gives, you realize that that's what you're made for. And that's what anybody you're leading, that's what they're craving. Anybody that you're working with, that's what they're craving, even if they don't know that.
Mhm.
And even if you offer that to them, they're going to distrust it for a while, because it's so foreign. It doesn't feel familiar. It's not what they're accustomed to from other leaders. So letting yourself actually, again, if you let ego is just the thing that separates me and you. It's the part of myself that I present that I think you'll accept.
Wow.
So I fashion this thing that stands between us. And when people have a big ego, that doesn't mean they're all always arrogant. It just means that it's a big separation between my heart and your heart, that keeps us from being able to connect in a meaningful, vulnerable, intimate way.
Mhm.
And so the ego is what I present to you, so that I think he'd like this. Like, I'm reading your face and your body language, and like, this is what I'm supposed to say. This is what a good person would say and do, as opposed to saying, "Wow, that scares me to hear you say that. What does that mean? What do you mean by that?" Like, get curious. Like, um, so we're desperately designed to have that type of, I think, have that kind of, uh, just hardwired to have that kind of connection.
Yes, and that leads me to one more question, Shad. Do you have a few more minutes, or do you have to go at the 30
Oh,
minute
I'm
mark?
good. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm good.
All right. So all of that vulnerability stuff, our real passion, getting our real hopes figured out. Oh my gosh, that's scary and might not be pretty enough and clean enough
Mhm,
for what we think people will accept about us.
mhm,
And yet, we're all marketers in some way. We have brands, we have online presence, we have to keep up with something. Where's the line there, man? How do you show up with that kind of vulnerability, passion, courage, and not just be like an emotional mess that people can't figure out what in the world are you doing? Are you just doing your own therapy sessions online? Like, come on, where's the line? How do you sort that?
So the healthier I get, the more boundaried I am, right? So maybe referring a little bit to boundaries. So I hear a couple of things in the question. One, like from the marketing standpoint of sharing what I have to contribute. The best marketing is the most honest marketing, right? Like the best marketing and marketers help other people tell the truth about what they're passionate about so that it does carry with it a relational, relatable message. And that's what we're constantly trying to refine. Like, how do I make this true to me? Like like, how do I make this feel so when people read it, it doesn't feel like they're being marketed to. It feels like there's a bunch of people here that really care about specifically what you may be facing. So that's the marketing part of that is like, how do I tell the truth the most clear way that people can connect with? On the relationship side of that, it's knowing, you have choices of what you share, when you share, how you share, who you share with. Like, I have more courage if I didn't know you, and this was the first time we'd ever talked. I'd be a lot more scared because I wouldn't have as much security in the relationship to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I may be more guarded. I may be more like, or I'd have to decide, you know what, I'm just going to trust them and I'm going to leave it out there and take the risk. And that could backfire. So like you have choices to kind of because I think when we talk about vulnerability, a lot of times our minds go to a caricature of somebody we know that we don't want to be like. Like, oh yeah, so and so is that way, and they would never shut up, and all they do is tell me, Like, so avoid doing that because that's not what we're talking about. That's another just way of unhealthfully expressing some of those truths. But it's another way of coping. So think about, establishing your community, the people that kind of in concentric circles, right? Like, there are things we're not saying here that you and I both know, like that's a tighter circle. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's concentric circles around that of what I'm willing to give of myself. And I have that choice and I have agency over that. So I'm not using my vulnerability in a manipulative way. It's like I want to, and that's all the brands I'm affiliated with now. And this just happened. It wasn't strategic. They're all things I'm deeply connected to and care about personally. You
Mm-hmm.
know, whether it's
Yeah.
fly fishing, leadership, or counseling, it's like stuff that matters to me. And there's some downsides to that. There can be, but primarily I'm much more. It's much more natural for me to be energized by it and to continue to pursue it and take risks in it. And it also makes it all the more scary. It doesn't guarantee anything,
Yeah.
but I was never guaranteed anything anyway. So
Mm-hmm. Dude, that's fantastic. And you just mentioned fly fishing, therapy counseling, and the vulnerability based leadership.
mhm.
Shad, I've got your link to your bio here in the comments. Dude, you have a brand for each one of those things, which I think is super cool. So this passion, purpose, plan thing that's right here on the screen, that's the way Shad lives. He has
Mhm.
a therapy counseling business with a lot of team members. They're helping a lot of people all over the place. Like, amazing, well done. Like, oh my gosh, you're helping so many people. And then you have this leadership program that's completely separate, a book that you wrote, and a leadership mastermind, which is amazing for those mid-sized corporate types. And they're also entrepreneurs, right? Lots of entrepreneurs in there.
Right. Right.
Yeah, mid-sized business owners. And then you have a fly fishing brand that does clothing and gear around that sport, that lifestyle. Dude, that's like so pure
Mm.
passion for you that you've turned into a purpose and a plan. Like, three great examples. Still can't imagine how in the world you get it all done, but three great examples of exactly how
A lot
this
of help.
works.
A lot of help.
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
Vic and
and
Paul.
they all have varying degrees of profitability, right? And like some, so it's like it's all in process. Like I'm on a path. Like these are the paths I'm choosing now.
Mhm.
I may choose different ones later, but it's a path, and it's ongoing. It's never ending. I'll be on this path till I die.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So Your contact info is here. It's actually, I'm going to pull it up right here
Okay.
in the comments on the screen right there. Actually this right here. There we go. cardiacollective.com. If you're listening to this, it's KARDIA collective. That's COLLECTIVE.com and / Shad Berry. If you just Google Cardia, KARDIA, and Shad, SHAD, Berry, BERRY, you will totally find Shad, because there's not that many people named Shad. And
That's
Cardia is
true.
a really unique. Wow, exactly where I am. I currently, this is Inja. So great to see you, Inja. Currently in my healing place. Thank you so much for bringing understanding. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Inja.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Shad, super thanks for investing in us. Like, this is a hard, really kind of hard thing to catch on to.
A little ethereal.
Yeah, it's so ethereal. Yeah. But it's so our core, and the core of the people. I don't want to make this connected in a weird, creepy, businessy sort of way, but we're all, everybody in my community is here marketing and selling something. The core of the perfect sale is finding someone's hope that truly authentically needs what you have to be accomplished. You got the tool to help their hope take flight.
Right.
And putting that together, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. That's marketing is basically, sending the signals out, and hoping to the best of our ability to help that hope connect with somebody else who's hoping for the same thing. Because it doesn't have to be the next Amazon or Apple. It just needs to connect with the people that we care most about, that need what we have, because they're out there, and they're looking for it. They're looking for you. So yeah, absolutely. That has so much more integrity, and then we feel so much better. I'll speak for myself. I feel so much better when there's connection, that I didn't hoodwink or outwit, or just through sheer salesmanship. Like, I showed up with what I had, and I set the table, and they're like, I'm gonna take a bite. There's a book that I love, the author named Amy Sherman, and she basically said, we're all little pink spoons. Like, at the end of the day, if you go to Baskin Robbins and you want to see, do I want Rocky Road? Do I want whatever, vanilla chocolate? Don't get the ice cream with the gum in it. That's just dumb. But like, you get a sample, and the whole purpose of a sample is, do I want more? Like, that was amazing. Give me a bowl of that. Put it on a cone. Double scoop it. Give me some sprinkles. Like, so all we're doing is, like, hey, here's a sample. This is what I offer. Do you want more? So it doesn't have to be big. It just needs to be true.
Man, that's right. I'm leaving it there. Shad, thank you.
Thanks, man. I love this.
I love it too. It's so great to get to hang out with you outside of just our friendship.
Yeah, see you at the farm.
Yeah, we actually talked, folks, today. We hang out frequently at a park, and we talked today about like doing this episode from the park. That'd been fun. We were scared the audio wouldn't be good. Jessica Edwards.
Look at that.
Chris Williams, you're an amazing person. Oh my gosh, Jessica, thanks. You took the time to chat with me for a bit over 30 minutes and helped make a very hard decision that I was scared to make. My business and my life has taken off since talking to you. Way to go, Jessica. You're doing the work to get the results, Jessica. We all have advice, Jessica. We're all really good at giving advice.
Receive it, Chris. She's praising you. You deserve it.
Thanks, Jessica. You're nice. You really are. But you're doing the work, Jessica. Well done. I'm on a whole new path to success. It's so important to set boundaries with your clients. No freaking kidding. Well done, Jessica, there. Thanks for helping me realize that. Nice. Well done, Jessica. Like, totally well done.
That's fantastic. Thanks for saying that.
All right. Shad Berry, Cardia Collective. Look him up. His bio is right there, linked here. And his website for his counseling therapy group is Cardia Collective. If you want to see a great example of what he's doing, awesome example there, dude.
If there are any fly fishing enthusiasts out there, driftflyco.com, if I can throw a plug in for that.
Yes,
that's a lot of fun too.
Drift, driftflyco.com.
That's right.
You got to go see that. Shad's doing so many cool things.
We gotta go. We gotta go fishing.
Sounds good. I'm horrible at catching fish. I'll go I'm the worst, dude. You'll be catching fish on one side. I'll be like doing nothing but sitting there watching you
Nah,
catch fish.
there's nothing better than doing nothing, sitting in a river out in the mountains. So that's a good place to do
Completely
nothing.
agree. All right, dude. Thanks for hanging
All
out,
right.
Shad.
Yeah.
See you,
Thanks, Chris.
everybody. Y'all lean
Bye,
in. By the way,
guys.
lean in, ask questions. Ask questions in the comment thread. I know most of you catch this as the replay. And as you know, we answer those questions. So if you got questions for me or for Shad around this topic or anything else that you think we might know about around what we're talking about here, ask your questions. Ask them. If you're too shy and you're like, I don't want to ask this publicly, then send a private message to one of us. I tagged his Facebook profile up there in the top of this thing. Like, send me or him a private message. We'll answer your questions. That's why we're in this community together. Shad Berry, you're a true hero to us. Thank you very much for hanging out.
Thanks, Chris.